Hi, guys. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of my fishing tactics. It is the 11th today of June, and looks like we have a little bit of rain outside. But I wanted to go over something that's exciting for me to talk about, which is night fishing. And what makes night fishing so advantageous is seasonality. Right now with it being summertime, and especially while I'm running my guide service, a lot of my clients don't want to go out in the heat, nor do I. Maybe 5 or so years ago, even 10 years ago, I wanted to get out there and, brave the elements, whether it be rain or wind or sun. I was out there. And now, I have skin issues. I had a few spots that I've had to looked at by the dermatologist, and it's just not really what I want to do right now is go out in the sun. So, but neither do my clients, which works out. And also, fishing is much easier at nighttime. So, um, during the daytime, of course, if I had a tournament or, um, you know, had to be out there for some reason, excuse me, or had to be out there for some reason, I could make it work and I could catch fish. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest fish that I caught, within the last couple months was at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon in the heat. And so if I go to my Instagram page here, let's see. I can pull up some of my recent catches and show you guys. And obviously this video is about night fishing, but um, I want to kind of show what I could do during the day, so it's not like, hey, Clay's saying, oh, he could do this or that. This is for real. So this fish here, I caught at like 2 p.m. and it was scorching hot. I put on sunscreen like 3 times, 3 different layers of sunscreen, and it was just like grinding it out. But what I've realized is that during the day, these fish tuck way back into the docks, and going back to what I had said earlier, it makes it very difficult for my clients. And so, they can't get in there and skip that bait under the docks like they need to and whatnot. But nonetheless, um, let me actually turn down my phone. I apologize. Um, so nonetheless, it's just better. It's more comfortable. Everybody's just kind of in good spirits, fishing at nighttime, and it's peaceful. It's kind of a meditative type thing for me. I try to throughout the week do meditative stretching and have time to myself to collect my thoughts. And when I'm out there, it's very peaceful. All your senses are zoomed in on a central point to where you're looking to flip your bait out. It's pretty neat. So, anyways, that being said, we go like some of the trips I do. I'll do like, hey, let's get out there at 4 a.m. and let's fish till 10, or let's fish till 11. Or hey, let's go in the evening at 5, 6, 7 p.m. Get done at midnight, or whatever the client wants. I usually make accommodations. So there are quite a few boats out there when we go. And it's, I think, addressing kind of the major concerns that people might have with fishing at nighttime. You could say, um, safety obviously is at the top and one of the most paramount to whoever's interested in booking a guided trip. But I have uh, boat lanes on my GPS, and you could see tracks from days and days and days of fishing going the same path. Um, so I'm used to that, and I try to turn my graph and show my clients, hey, like, you're okay. I'm gonna take care of you. There's nothing to worry about. Um, but there are concerns of, hey, there could be floating logs, but on the lake that I fish primarily right now, Canyon Lake, there's really no floaters, no floating logs in the main lake. So, something like on Lake Waco up north, there's a lot of floaters. With high water and everything, it's a flooded. Uh, it's like a farmland type area, and there's a lot of stumps and stuff, and um, a lot of that old timber gets uprooted and floats away. So that is more of a risk there. But here, not at all, especially in the main lake where I spend most of my time since I'm an expert in clear water fishing, and that's what I would prefer actually. So, that being said, I go slow when I'm driving. I'm not trying to drive 50 around the lake or 60 around the lake. There's really no reason to do that. But also I got to make forward progress and get to where I'm wanting to go. But I have my running lights on. I have my GPS turned so that my client can see where we're going. I'm driving slow. I'm visually looking. I've got headlamps on. I'm making sure that, for some crazy reason, there's not someone out there without any lights on, So there's at least enough ambient light available 90% of the time to tell, hey, we're coming up on a boat or not, even if they didn't have their lights on. So I'm really careful about all that, and I just want to stress that because if there's anybody who's watching this video that is interested in booking a trip with me, that would be one of the concerns that I'd want to stress ahead of time to let you know that safety is my number one priority. And number two priority is catching fish. I want to catch a lot of fish, which makes all the more sense as to why we would go at nighttime or early in the morning. So, um, nonetheless, let's get into some of the technique and some of the thoughts that I have with regards to night fishing because I've tried night fishing for years now. I've tried night fishing since I was a young guy and went out there and, hit or miss success. It really wasn't super great. Um, you know, Not to mention that, God, there's so much to unpack here. It's difficult to like collect my thoughts and say everything I need to say. But not to mention that there's tournament hours where they send you out super early and you have low light conditions, or you know um, you're fishing all day and then you come in once it gets dark because you notice your bites start dropping off. Uh, all that is it's an indicator to you that you should switch techniques and be aware of the changing light. The changing light is what dictates the whole deal. So the activity is much more heightened and it's multiplied many times during the night and early morning in the summertime. There's no question there. So there's fish that are willing to bite. If you're, a lot of times what hurts you the most in this time of the year when you could fish at night is lack of confidence in night fishing. And then it's like, oh, let's throw the bait that we've normally been throwing during the day. Let's pull out that green trick worm and throw that. Well, I mean, that green trick worm is a very subtle, like with that green water and whatnot. It blends in really well. It's almost like clear, and so you don't see it super well in the daytime to begin with. So why do you think you're going to see it well at nighttime? Because the fish have to find the bait. That's the main thing. So the things that I'm going to do at nighttime, I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, you need to fish next to lights." That's not true either. That is not true at all. I've got plenty of fish in the pitch black dark with no lights anywhere nearby. And the reason is because I use baits that displace a lot of water. So like one of my favorite baits is the let's take a look at the tackle warehouse here. So this is the Zoom speedworm here. It's not the Ultra Vibe speedworm, it's just the normal speedworm. That's it there. They're showing blue fleck there. The one that I normally use 90% of the time is this Junebug Red. It has a lot of contrast. That one and, oh, I'm sorry, I use Junebug majority of the time, excuse me. Junebug Red, I like to throw in normal conditions, with pretty semi-stained water in spring and winter. Those are the colors I like when I'm trying to, match the hatch with craw. But the June bug is what I throw. That's super dark, and then it's got that green fleck in there, and it's like a dark, like flashy green. It's not like just a translucent, clear watermelon color or something. It's got a lot of good contrast, and it's almost like turquoise with purple. And anybody who knows anything about physics knows that when light hits water, the the colors disperse, and there's certain colors that are lost at each incremental depth point. So like the Roy G. Biv colors the rainbow. When you shoot light onto water, it displaces it makes distinguishing. I don't know what you call it, but it separates the colors basically of the white light. It separates it into colors. That's what I'm trying to say. So like red is the first one to disappear. Then it's like orange, yellow, green. So purple's the last one, and there's like that's absolutely 100% confirmable, and it's verifiable. It's scientific. It's the real deal. So with that in mind, I'm gonna throw like purple, black, like those dark colors are the last ones to be lost in the water column. So um, the other thing is, besides just color, I'm gonna want to throw baits that have like this paddle tail in the back. That paddle tail there is probably the size like of a quarter, like a quarter. And it really moves a lot. There's so much action on that bait. Another company that makes a bait like that is, I think it's called the Hyper Stick or something. It's the Lake Fork. I think it's let's see here. Hyper Freak. Okay, yes, this is the Hyper Worm. This one is very similar, and these joints in this bait are even better. The more action, the better. That's what I'm getting at. So if I need to buy me some of these, actually, these hyper worms. I like them a lot. The difference between them and the others is it's got more action than the others. But and that's a damn good color there. But anyways, I throw those purple worms, and like I said, I don't want to just rely on just um, one appeal to the senses being color. I want to have color and movement. I want to have as many things going for me as possible to get it to where there's no chance that they're going to not see this bait or feel this bait. So those two things are huge. The other thing is you could throw spinner baits, of course, because they have, you could throw them with a big, like a Colorado blade, which is, like the big circular type blade, or you could have like you wouldn't want to do your long willow leaf style blades necessarily, because they're very streamlined and they don't push as much water as would a big round blade. But and then but so I guess there's variable ways to look at this. I'm not like super. I haven't. That's not all I do is night fishing. It's just something that I'm offering to my clients. And hey, I know what I'm doing when I'm out there works. And so it's like, why fix it? I know it works. I know it gets bites. I can take my wife out there fishing and she'll catch them. So what I do and the things that I use, it's just what works for me. And it's not like, oh, it's only going to work here or anywhere else. It just works. And so, I don't think that they're super selective, like, oh, it's got to look like this or do this, like they are in the clear water when it's bright outside. So I get away with throwing these purple dark worms, paddle tail. Like I said, if you want to throw a spinnerbait, throw that. But the other approach that I've heard and you know, that I know works to some degree, if not full blown, is like throwing really loud colors, like the same type of colors that you'd throw in really muddy water. Like if I'm fishing really muddy water and it's like zero visibility, and let's say for example I'm trying to mimic a brim, maybe I put a big chartreuse, spinnerbait with big blades, like just a big chartreuse spinnerbait, and I start throwing that. That might be good. Where it would look completely unnatural in clear water, but it would show up really well in the stained water. So, it's either, hey, use the darks and black and purple, or use really loud colors like that chartreuse or an orange or a white, solid white, or whatever. But so that's kind of the thought process behind that. I haven't experimented a ton with throwing the same colors I would throw in the stained water, because it's like, hey, this is just keeps working and working and working every time. So it's like, go towards what works. Um, I just don't have an ego about it anymore. If it works, then I'll keep throwing it. But the other thing is like top waters. I love throwing top waters at nighttime, and so you know if there's surface activity and you can hear things busting the surface and things going on, it makes sense to throw a top water. But why would you throw a top water if there's zero surface activity? Doesn't make sense to me. A lot of people, like, it's an intuitive type thing. A lot of people are like, hey, I want to throw top water in low light. And a lot of people, that's what they do. They gravitate towards picking up that Zara Spook or top water or whatever, and they throw it. But like, I think it's much more effective when the fish are spending time looking up and they're focused on the surface of the water, and the conditions are such that that's where they want to be. That's the layer of water that they want to be in. But like for me right now, if I don't see that happening, I'm gonna put the top water down. And for example, or not for example, rather, um, for the time being, I don't see that activity on Canyon Lake. I haven't seen it the last few times I've gone out, so it's like, I'm gonna keep throwing this worm. Um, oh, the other worm that I throw, backtracking, the other worm that I throw is this Zoom Old Monster, which is huge, and it's 10.5 inch worm, but it's also got a massive ribbon tail, and so it's just like making a lot of disturbance in the water, which is what I want. That's a good color right there. It looks like a really dark color. Yeah, that's their black emerald. That would work. Black grape would work. Um, June bug, June bug red. All these are gonna work. Obviously, I wouldn't throw this tilapia magic or watermelon candy because of what I said previously. Is like, I'm not gonna throw natural colors um, at nighttime. But yeah, like, that's the whole thing. Is creating movement with that worm right there. Have that tail that displaces a lot of water. The other things that I think I want to really share right now that I think are critical is like, when you go out in the night, just because the fish are more active, and like what I'm about to say seems super simple, but it's really not. Um, don't go fish areas that you haven't been catching fish at nighttime and think that something's going to change from what happened in the daytime. If you're not catching them during the day in that area, why are you going to go there at night? There's probably people out there who are going to say, oh, well, they use this area at night to feed and they don't come here to. Well, that's fine. And there may be some exceptions where that's absolutely true. And I don't know that for a fact, but all I'm saying is, I'm not looking for any exceptions. I'm not looking for maybe this person said that or said this. I need to have as many things going for me as possible. Like I said, with the color, the movement of the bait, the location, like, I need to have it all. And so when I go to these areas at nighttime, I'm looking for the areas where I had activity the day before or whatever. And hey, there's fish over there. So then that's where I'll start. Most of the time right now, with it being summertime, it's all about the channel swings. Where does the channel touch the bank? Because that's going to be the deepest areas closest to shallow water. That's something that big fish relate towards. Big fish like shallow water next to deep water. That is a fact. And anybody who's like searching for really big quality fish, that's what they do. And they know that when they start hunting for the fish that way, their big bites go way through the roof. So, like, real quick, just real quick, because I've gone over this a ton in my other videos, but real super, super quick, in case you haven't seen them, we'll just go to Canyon Lake here. If I can get this thing to work. Of course, it's going to be slow. Well, we'll just zoom in. So anyway, uh, come on, guy. So this is the main river channel. I've talked about this in other videos. The river channel touches right here on this edge right here. And so, like, plenty of people catch big fish during the spawn, but after the spawn is done, and after especially not including fall either, because fall is all about bait fish moving around and wind and things where you can't predict exactly where they're at all the time. Summer and winter, guaranteed the fish are related to the creek channel swings because there's more nutrients. I feel like this is just speculation. I feel like there's more nutrients with that deep water close by. There's more protection that's offered, maybe better oxygenation. I really don't know. I do have somewhat of a background in ecology and biology and understanding, things like that, but I'm not like a full-time scientist or anything. But I would say that that's super important. So like those are the areas that I was fishing during the day. I'll go back at night and I'll fish the same areas. Now, like when I pull up on these areas, I fish just this. Like I literally the other night rather, went into my fish finder and I put one flag here, and I put one flag like over here, and I fished just the stretch where I thought it really, made a transition from over here where it's flat mostly, and then you got this coming in here. That transitional bend, like right in here, I put two flags, and I turned that GPS around so that I could look at it, and I fished down the bank until I crossed that second flag, and then I left the area and went and fished something else. But like I'm fishing that little zone where that's the high percentage area, and then I move. But it's not just this spot. This is just a sample, whatever to look at. There's plenty of spots like that all over the lake where the creek channel comes up close to the bank or whatever. Like here, you've got the secondary creek channel that touches and whatnot, but those are the main things. So I may put a flag on my GPS and then turn it around from like here to like here, and then I'll leave after that. But it's the same areas. What I'm getting at, long story short, it's the same areas that I fished during the day. So we've gone over the baits. I've talked about the summertime type patterns and areas that I would fish at night. But also, let me think. What do I think is most important? Pay attention to subtle cues. Even though there may not be a ton of surface activity, there is periodically, there's sounds and things that you hear, and you look down in the water and you see minnows or you don't see minnows. Or like, and it only has to be a couple, when you look down at your headlamp, but you want to look for signs of life. And if everything's too still and dead quiet, there's no life over there, in my opinion. If you hear periodic noise or there's wildlife that you're seeing on the bank, or like just you have to look for cues of life. Life follows life, and that's just how it works. And that's one of the things that's taken me, you know, leaps and bounds is life follows life. If I'm gonna actually write that down somewhere, or just I don't want to get it tattooed, but that's the truth. And so, I've been doing like Canyon Lake lately, and like I went and practiced the other day just for fun. Oh, but like went out with my buddy and we caught a whole bunch of fish. Like we caught a ton of fish, and there's big ones, there's bigger ones mixed in, and of course once in a while you come across a real big one. But it's just kind of like one of those things where you just have to get out there and do it, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, but at the same time don't go out there and just waste your time like doing random things. Like there needs to be a reason why you're in the area you're in. There has to be some sort of evidence, like you've caught them there recently, you know and then like I said, think about the baits. If you want to just keep it simple, oh, this is one thing that is huge. This is one thing, pay attention to this. If I go out on the lake and I go to an area where I'm not 100% sure that there are fish, but I think that there's a reason they may be there, okay? I'm not going to change two variables at once. This is kind of going back to my science background, and it just makes common sense, but I'm going to change either the bait or I'm going to change the location, but I'm not going to change the location of the bait because I don't learn anything from it. So if I spend one night throwing the same bait and I change locations constantly, there may be one or two places where I get bit, and then I know, hey, it has to do with the location. But if I go out there and I switch baits constantly and I'm changing locations, I'm like, hey, was it the bait or was it the location is the reason why I caught fish? You don't know. So you have to limit variables to just one at a time, manipulating things one at a time. So, hey, I'm going to change my bait I'm going to use the same bait for 4 hours. I'm going to fish 3, 4, 5, 6 different spots. Then I'm going to switch baits, fish those same spots, go back through those spots in the same rotation and see if it's a different bait that they want. So that's like the difference. That is the truth behind being like any type of fishing pro or guide or whatever. That is the truth. That and the life follows life. You pay attention to those two things and you are smart about the way you manipulate your variables when you're fishing, you're going to learn. The whole thing is you learn. And so that's what I have to share. Right now, I'm continuing to do my night fishing and hopefully gain some new clients. Hopefully, help them to put some fish in the boat. But like we pulled up on a spot the other night, for example, this little short run of about 100 yards, and we caught like fish after fish after fish, and it was like I had one on while I was trying to take pictures of my buddy, and so it was just it's so much more fun and engaging, and it just makes it easier. So why am I going to go out and try to deal with the elements? It's just not something I want to do right now. But yeah, I hope you learned something from this. I apologize for some of the rambling. There's just a lot of information to try to get out in this short time span, and I hope this benefits you guys. And maybe you should watch it, more than once, and just kind of think about the major tenets being, the bait selection, why it is that I'm using that dark purple worm, why it is that there's that ribbon tail or that big paddle tail, why would I suggest a spinner bait, when would I do a top water versus not a top water, what are the areas that I look for, did I catch fish there previously. Pay attention to those things, and you will have a more successful outing at night. But don't be discouraged. You got to put in your time, and you will learn. Hopefully not trial by fire. That's why you're watching this. But tune in. I appreciate the support. I want to continue to put out good content and spread my knowledge and my passion for fishing. So thank you so much.